guys, and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be about a bad habit I broke thanks to the pandemic. I know that there's a lot of things that people hate about the pandemic, and not a lot of good things have happened out of it for a lot of people, but for me I've actually had quite a few benefits, oddly enough, even though in the time it didn't feel so beneficial. It's just right now I'm kind of starting to see how good it was that those things have happened. So the bad habit I had was running. Not like physically running outside, you know, but actually like running away from my problems. Anytime I felt sadness, anger, or I don't know, pain, like of any sort, I would run. And by what I mean by I would run is I would book a trip somewhere and leave. So for those who don't know who I am, or like anything about me, I actually have traveled to 28 different countries, and I would say the mass majority of them was to do with running. There's like a small portion that aren't. It was just like going to trips with friends, or like a friend was going on a trip, so I invited myself or they invited me. Like, so there are parts of the trip, parts of my traveling that had nothing to do with running. But the mass majority of them, anytime I felt sad, or like I said, sad, anger, pain, I would just take off because it was the easiest thing. So I felt sadness, I would book a trip, and then I would all of a sudden have this countdown, whether it was like a month away or 6 months away. It was like this giant countdown, and then that was kind of where my mind stayed for that period of time. So I had, you know, I had this thing to look forward to, so all of a sudden I just ignored whatever I was sad about, or whatever hurt me, or whatever like angered me, or whatever it was. But because of the pandemic, something happened that made me really sad, and I couldn't run away from it. And then a few other things have had happened throughout the pandemic that made me sad or angry or upset, and I couldn't run. I had to do this thing that most people do called deal with my problems, which is not something I usually do. So this is like, it was like I had all these layers, I guess, of all these triggers that I needed to work through, and slowly as an adult I started working through them a couple years ago. But then I really did realize that I was running and using traveling for running. Don't get me wrong, I do not regret any of my trips, because of the fact that on these trips I've really discovered who I am, what I want to be, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. I discovered the world, I learned new experiences. I feel like I really broadened my mind. So I don't have any regret whatsoever about traveling, but I didn't really learn to cope with emotions right as they happened. It was kind of like, okay, let's bury these and not deal with them, or deal with them when I got triggered again. But this time, in the last like, whatever, it's been 6 months of pandemic happening, I guess, I have learned to cope with things as they hit me instead of trying to run, because I don't have the option of running. I did have a trip booked I just went on, but that was booked before anything happened. It was booked in January or something like that, and it was booked originally for a family reunion, but then it ended up being the reunion got canceled because of COVID, so I just went on a trip anyways. Had nothing to do with running. But during the whole pandemic, I had no choice. I couldn't run. I couldn't pick a trip somewhere. It's not like I'm allowed to leave the country. It's I'm stuck here. And honestly, being stuck is the best thing that could have happened to me, because I have learned how to deal with certain emotions, how to go about things and overcome things by actually overcoming the thing instead of overcoming it, you know, a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later. I'm actually dealing with the problem right here in front of me. And for me, that was hard. Like, you would think, I'm almost 29 years old, so in like 2 months I'm 29, and at this age I should be able to cope with all my emotions that hit me and any issue that hits me right when it happens. But I've never had to do that, because basically after I graduated, within like a year or so, no, like within like 2 years, I started traveling. So that was like my go-to, anything happened, was travel, 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 spend, 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 spend. And it kind of like gets you stuck in a little bit of a rut by doing that. Like, first of all, your emotions, you're not completely emotionally developed at the age you should be. You just don't know how to cope with the world, I guess, besides like putting it off or pretending like it doesn't bother you. But now I've had to actually like dissect problems as they hit me, because I'm like, I can't go anywhere, I can't run, I have to deal with this, or it's just gonna eat at me. And I feel like I'm just getting better and better and better at it. So like in a way I'm actually happy the pandemic happened, because without it, who knows how long I would have kept running for. Like I could spend my whole life running away from problems. Like there's a lot of people who do. People definitely cope with it in different ways. Like some people drink, some people do drugs, some people whatever gamble, I don't know. Like people do all these different things, and my coping mechanism was just traveling, was getting lost in an unknown country. And I am not the only person who does this. I know a lot of my travel friends who are stuck throughout the pandemic. They've all talked to me about it too, and we've all talked about how we all are big travelers, but we're big travelers who use traveling as a runaway. And it amazed me, first of all, how many people that actually do this. And it actually made me feel good that right at the beginning of the pandemic, me and one of my friends, we sat down and we were talking about this, how like we both have to deal with problems. And before I had time to have shame about using traveling as like a way to run, I had this friend sit down with me, and right away I knew I wasn't alone, so the shame was gone. I had no shame about it, because I realized I was not the only person who did this, and that makes you feel better when you know you're not alone. And then after that, it's just kind of so many people came to me, and it was just by chance, I guess, or me. I have a lot of travel friends, so just talking to them and stuff, and knowing that we are not all alone. Most of us did it for running, but it's so interesting when you actually have to be an adult and deal with your emotions. I think this is like the first time, I know this might sound really bad, but this is the first time that I actually started feeling like an adult was this year, 2020. At 28 years old, this is the first time in my life I felt I'm an adult, I guess. I've never really felt like that before, which is weird. I understand this is super weird to say. Everybody has their own timeline, and on society's timeline, I'm not where I should be, but in my timeline, this is what's working for me. Yes, I might be learning things a little bit older, but I didn't have the opportunity to learn the things I was supposed to learn when I was younger. It wasn't there for me. So now it's my turn to learn it now, but I'm just like so happy the pandemic happened, and yeah, it's amazing. And it's super weird to actually deal with your emotions and your thoughts, but I found it has produced, anytime I have all these like emotions and thoughts, I feel like I have to talk about them right away, which sometimes isn't a good thing. I did start journaling, doing brain dumps. Brain dumps are the best thing. If you don't do it, I highly recommend it. That in the morning, wake up and just write every thought in your head, just write it down. At the end of the day, write down all your thoughts. Write down like why your day was disappointing to you or why it was good to you. Write down any thoughts that are just jumbled around there and get it out on paper, because sometimes when you get it out, it just kind of dismisses it from your brain. Which sounds super weird. I thought it sounded super weird when I heard about this, and I started doing it and I was like, holy fuck. It works. It's amazing, it works. But I guess that's the end of my video. I just wanted to tell you guys about how amazing the benefits that came from the pandemic were. There's so many more actually, to be honest with you, but I'll do that in a different video. But thank you guys for watching my little rant about not running anymore. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Thanks for watching my rant to tell you guys about not running, and I guess just something I learned, which is it's always neat to learn new things, you know? But if you guys like this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you don't, give it a big fucking thumbs down, and I will catch you guys in the next one. I'm sounding really far away, so I have to run up to hit it.